My 27F, boyfriend, 30 meters, of 10 months flipped out when I wouldn't keep my clothes at his place anymore. My 27F, boyfriend, 30 meters, of 10 months flipped out when I wouldn't keep my clothes at his place anymore. I'm looking for some advice with my relationship with my boyfriend. I don't know where to start and I hope this makes sense. I'm disappointed and hurt by my boyfriend's reaction when I approached him about my concerns. Please know I'm not the petty type nor do I ignore issues or problems. However, I make every attempt at being civil and calm when I do air any concerns. We each have our own place. A few months back my BF suggested I could keep some of my personal belongings at his house, i.e. a toothbrush, spare undies, 2 pairs, and PJs, long sleeve and pants. It made it easier in the sense that I didn't have to pack those items for when I stayed over. I stay over every other weekend. However, I've noticed that when I use my PJs or undies they will stay in the hamper until I sleep over again. The first time washed our clothes at his place he said he meant to do them but forgot. I said no problem. But if you don't want to do them it's not a big deal, I'll just take my clothes home. He said it wasn't and agreed it's kind of gross to keep clothes around for 2 weeks unwashed. Nothing changed after this conversation and this continued for a few more weeks. Except I noticed he wasn't washing his clothes either. Yesterday I became agitated that I was washing both of our dirty clothes every time I'd stay over. My time went from being with him to being with his washer and dryer while he's raiding or gaming with his friends on his PC. Normally this type of thing wouldn't bother me but it's 2 weeks worth of his clothing plus the PJs and undies I wore the last time I was there. I ended up bringing all my clothes home. As soon as he noticed my clothes were missing he flipped out. He accused me of leaving him, not the case at all. I waited until he was done yelling and in a soft calm voice explained to him that I didn't want to leave my clothes there anymore because they are always dirty and I wanted to clean them. Furthermore, it wasn't fair of him to expect me to wash all of his clothes when I'm there. I told him when I come over it is like us to hang out but find it difficult when I'm washing all his clothes. He went on about having to work all the time. He works 10-hour days 4 days a week, while I only go to school. I'm in a full-time post-grad program. Then he told me to grow up. He hasn't spoken to me since then. Reddit, I'm at a loss. I really don't need him to wash my clothes. Having them there was supposed to be convenient. Instead it's frustrating. What is going on? Edit, thanks everyone for all the replies. I still haven't heard from him. I will update as soon as possible. I just can't believe how much this hurts. I don't have any issues with him gaming. In fact he's got me into playing Fallout 4. But unlike him gaming isn't my only interest and isn't always my idea for quality time. Anyways, I'm turning in for the night. Thanks again. Update Jan 15, 2016, 5 days later after a 3 days of silence I decided to call it quits. I tried texting him but he wouldn't respond. Eventually I called his cell phone and left him a voicemail explaining how deeply hurt I am that he yelled at me and how I feel even worse now that he wouldn't respond to me. I told him I felt that it was important to me to have open and honest communication between the two of us and since I have no idea where he is or what is happening I assumed that we are over. I told him I wished him the best and I hope he could find some happiness and ended the call. 3 minutes later my phone rings. It's him. I pick up and he starts bawling about how sorry he is and how he didn't want things to go that far. How all he wanted was to be able to play his games in peace but realized he also wanted me. He asked me to take him back. I told him that he lost my trust and hurt me over a trivial thing. I told him I need time to think about what I want. He hung up. So it's over. Officially. Part of me is really sad but I know I'll get over it. Right now I just want to focus on me and when I do find someone they will know how to do their laundry. Thanks Reddit. Story 2. I, 25F, think I just dumped my boyfriend, 30 meters, because he proposed. What now? Today is mine and my boyfriend's 2nd anniversary, though the first 6+ months of this we were friends with benefits so I don't think it counts, but he does. I don't talk to my parents. Haven't said a word to them since I was 16. I don't want to put the reason here but it was bad enough that me never speaking to them again could be seen as them getting off lightly. I left home at 16 by marrying my best friend. He knew what was happening the whole time and wanted to help me, and it was bad enough that marriage was the best escape plan I had. It was the only way to avoid being dragged back home. I'd tried running away before this, but we divorced 5 years later. We were both having issues with student finance so we needed to go through it as married. I took his surname to avoid being tied to my parents and my friend and I are still close. He actually set me up with my current boyfriend. My mom contacted me right before Christmas. I deleted my old Facebook, and then made a new one back in November, and forgot about the privacy settings until mom messaged. She was asking if her and dad could see me on Christmas Day. My boyfriend saw the message and asked who it was. I admitted she was my mother. This led to questions, as the only time I'd talked about my parents was to say I don't speak to them. I said that she found me, but I wasn't going to reply. I said I have my reasons which I'm not ready to tell yet, but I would as soon as I was ready. He said that was good enough for him. I blocked her and moved on. It's been a few months, and I've been trying to tell him, but it's hard. It's like every time I try I just can't get the words out. And then tonight, on our 2nd anniversary, he proposed. Using my nan's ring. Which my parents have. I asked where he got it and he told me he'd gone to see my parents. He got mom's name when she messaged me, contacted her and went to see her within a few days of me getting that message, the whole time knowing that I didn't want to hear from her. He'd asked them for permission to marry me, and they'd given him nan's ring because nan always meant for me to have it. I don't know if I actually dumped him. I definitely told him to leave. But I didn't actually break up with him. He's at his sister's place right now and keeps calling/texting me, wanting to know what he did and asking me to call him, and his sister, who I'm friends with, is also asking what's happened. I knew he was traditional, and he put a lot of stock into family, which is why he was so close with his family, but he knew I didn't speak to mine and never pried into it. Just took me at my word when I said I'd tell him when I was ready, and when I said that he'd said that he was patient and could wait as long as I needed. When I was in therapy, my therapist used to make me write stuff down or draw pictures or basically just put my feelings somewhere to get it out, so that's what I'm doing now. I wasn't even sure I was going to post this, but right now I'm just so lost and I have no idea what I'm doing or where I go from here. I love him, but this is honestly the only thing like this that I've ever asked of him. 6 hours ago I could see a future here, but now the last few months, this proposal, and any future proposal, all feel tainted somehow. I love my Nan, but knowing he asked my parents for permission and knowing how he got Nan's ring just makes me feel sick. Edit, he gave me his reasoning through messages and voicemails. His stance is that there's an importance to the tradition, and family is important, and there's mentions of my parents meeting our kids one day and Dad walking me down the aisle at our wedding. He seems to think the whole thing's fixable, and it sounds like they gave him some fake story about them grounding me so I ran away or something equally minor on their part and drastic on mine. He's also said that they seemed like nice people, and if he'd gotten a bad feeling when he was messaging my mom he would never have gone to meet them. From what he said, they asked about me, specifically what I do in my workplace, and he's given them this information, but no means of contacting me directly. I don't know what to do. I need someone to tell me what to do. I need a third party to give me advice, and that would normally be a therapist or something, but it's the middle of the night and I stopped going to therapy years ago, so can someone just please tell me what to do? Put things in perspective? Give me advice? Update April 22, 2020, next day. So here's where I'm at. I read every comment/PM/chat and decided I had to tell him, if for no other reason than to make sure he knew why I was/am so upset about this. I talked to my ex-husband, 25, about it, because he was there for the whole thing and watched it happen in real time, and he said he would be there for me and talk if I couldn't. My ex-husband was not happy with my boyfriend, to say the least, and told me that my boyfriend had actually asked him what happened about 6 months ago, but my ex-husband had said it was up to me to tell him when I was ready, and my boyfriend had said that was fair enough and he'd wait for me to tell him. Ex-husband hadn't told me any of this because I'd only just asked my boyfriend to move in and he didn't want to undercut my happiness, which he has apologized for and said he won't do that again, as in he won't keep things from me to protect me. So boyfriend comes over, ex-husband is already there, boyfriend asks why ex-husband is here. I say I invited him for emotional support when I tell him everything. Boyfriend isn't happy but sits down. I then began to tell him. The first thing I said was what they did in the bluntest language possible, as in my dad, and my mom. I started to elaborate when boyfriend interrupts and says something like they told me you'd lie. Ex-husband tells him to watch how he's speaking to me and boyfriend says he'll speak to me how he likes and then tells me that he knew the truth, and implies I should be thanking him for sticking around. The truth appears to be my parents telling him that I was always unstable, refused to see a mental health professional, and eventually they caught me breaking the law and rather than report me they grounded me, and I ran away rather than get grounded, all of which is absurd and I honestly can't believe that he bought it. Ex-husband tells boyfriend, or rather, ex-boyfriend, that he has half an hour to pack his shit and leave, and if he speaks to me at all his time straight goes to zero. Ex-boyfriend packs his shit and leaves silently. So to recap, he knew that 1, I've not spoken to my parents in a decade, 2, I got married at 16 and took my husband's surname to escape/hide from them, 3, it was bad enough that I still have nightmares over it, and 4, I'd tell him when I was ready. Within a few days of hearing point 4 he sought out my parents and asked permission to marry me based on his own gut feeling about them, because the vibe he got from their texts was a far better judge of character than my 16 years with them/s. They fed him lies about me, which he bought, and he gave them information which includes my full name, job field, place of work, and possibly the address of our flat. While they have not done anything with this information yet, that I know of, my ex-boyfriend has stayed in touch this whole time, so if he messages them saying I broke up with him they might decide to pay me a visit now there's no longer a man in the house. My ex-husband has offered to stay with me temporarily. I don't know if I have grounds for enroll, but it might be time to look for a new place. So yeah, sorry for how dramatic this whole thing sounds. I just wanted to post an update because I got a lot of good advice on the first post and I want to thank everyone who responded. Situation is now resolved, though it isn't exactly the happiest ending and there's still stuff to work out, but this part is over at least. Thanks again. I mark this story as inconclusive because there has been no update since 2020. Story 3. BF, 31M, woke me, 34F, up at 2 a.m. to make him dinner. I made him leave instead. I am seriously never dating again. No advice needed, just one event. Throwaway for the usual reasons. So I became official with this guy a couple months ago. He was sweet, kind, funny, gorgeous, the usual stuff. Everything was fine, we'd stay at each other's places, have date nights, general relationship stuff. In short, no red flags, a couple beige ones here and there but everyone has those. Then came the other night. He's currently having to pick up the slack at his job due to multiple people quitting. We decided to spend the weekend at my place as his roommates can be quite loud and he needed to concentrate on fixing a system at his job so he can remotely work. Friday is fine, we stay in and in between his working we do the usual couple stuff. Saturday comes and something has gone wrong and the stress is doubled, so he isn't eating anything I make which is fine, I simply remind him there are leftovers in the fridge. By 11 p.m. he's still working so I head to bed. I am then startled awake by him at 2 a.m. shaking me, telling me he's hungry now. Confused, I remind him about the leftovers and turn over to go back to sleep but he gets grumpy and tells me I need to make him something fresh, now. I'm honestly completely confused and so sleepy while he rattles on about coconut shrimp or something. Still half asleep, I just stare at him as I try to work out what the fuck is happening. I'm guessing my silence pissed him off as he started having a go at me for not doing my duty as his girlfriend. That woke me up fully and I told him to get out of my house. His attitude changed then and he was apologizing, but I just repeated myself and eventually he left the room. I followed him, picked up his stuff, put it into a bag and once again told him to get out. He looked like a deer in headlights. He kept trying to say sorry and hug me, and it was only when I threw his car keys into his arms that he realized I was serious and left. This was Sunday morning, it's now Monday night and I still refuse to speak to him. He's tried calling and texting, but I'm honestly just annoyed and dumbfounded. I know I'll have to speak to him at some point, but I don't want to. He's an idiot. When I do speak to him I'll update. For now I'm going to bed. Update, same post, July 2nd 2024, next day update. Holy sweet Jeebus, that's a lot of notifications. Thank you for your overwhelming support, glad to know I'm not the only one who thinks this is stupid. Also to the ones who said I should have just done it or agreed with the man-child, thank you, I needed a laugh today. On to the update. He came into my job to talk and explained that his friend saw a video of a woman being woken up to cook for her man and they decided to test it out on their partners as a loyalty test, so my initial judgment of him being an idiot was correct. He was surprised when I broke up with him, but he was calm and accepting, albeit sad. Either way, that's over with. To answer a few concerns. Nope, no drugs, just bad judgment. No mental health concerns. Yes, he's stressed, but it's surface stress that'll be fine once his work hires some new people, I'm sure. Honestly? Not my concern anymore. Someone mentioned unconditional love? The relationship was less than 3 months, chill out. Seriously though, thank you for even taking the time to read my sleepy ramblings. I'm gonna buy myself a nice bottle of wine once I've finished work as a thank you to myself for not settling. Until next time. Story 4. I come home to surprise my wife and instead get surprised myself when I catch her in bed with my best friend. Now she blames me for everything.
I am 28, had been serving in the U.S. Army for the past 2 years.
I've been married to my wife, Karen, F27, for 4 years now. It was a love marriage, and we were really happy together, or so I thought. Last week, I got some leave approved and decided to surprise Karen by coming home without telling her. I was so excited to see her after being away for months. I still remember how we met in college. She was this vibrant, outgoing girl who caught my eye from day one. We started talking in our shared history class and hit it off immediately. Our first date was at this little coffee shop near campus. We talked for hours, losing track of time. I knew then that she was special. As our relationship grew, we made so many wonderful memories together. We'd go on weekend road trips, exploring new towns and trying local cuisines. Karen loved to sing, and I'd often find her belting out tunes while cooking or doing chores around the house. Her voice always put a smile on my face. One of my favorite memories is when I proposed to her. I took her to the beach at sunset. We walked along the shore, and as the sky turned beautiful shades of orange and pink, I got down on one knee and asked her to be my wife. The joy on her face when she said yes is something I'll never forget. Our wedding day was magical. Karen looked stunning in her white dress, and I couldn't believe how lucky I was to be marrying the woman of my dreams. We danced the night away, surrounded by our friends and family. It felt like the start of a beautiful journey together. Even after I joined the army, we tried to make the most of our time together. We'd have long video calls when I was away, sharing stories about our days and making plans for the future. Whenever I came home on leave, Karen would always have something special planned. Sometimes it was a home-cooked meal of my favorite dishes, other times it was a surprise weekend getaway. With all these memories in my heart, I was really looking forward to surprising her this time. I bought her favorite cake and a beautiful bouquet of roses. I used my spare key to quietly enter our house, planning to surprise her in the bedroom. As I approached the bedroom, I heard Karen giggling. At first, I thought she might be watching something funny on her phone. But then I heard a man's laugh too. My heart started racing, and I felt a knot forming in my stomach. When I opened the bedroom door, I couldn't believe my eyes. There was Karen, in our bed, with my best friend Bill, M30. They both looked shocked to see me. Karen quickly pulled the sheets up to cover herself, while Bill just sat there with his mouth open, not knowing what to say. I felt like the ground had disappeared from under my feet. The cake box slipped from my hand and fell to the floor. The roses I was holding suddenly felt heavy, and I let them drop too. Karen started saying something, trying to explain, but I couldn't hear her words clearly. It was like there was a ringing in my ears. All I could focus on was the fact that my wife, the woman I loved and trusted, was in bed with my best friend. I don't remember exactly what I said, but I know I shouted at them. I was hurt, angry, and felt so betrayed. Karen kept trying to talk to me, but I didn't want to hear it. What explanation could possibly justify what I had just seen? I turned around and walked out of the room, out of the house. I could hear Karen calling after me, but I didn't stop. I got in my car and drove to my mom's house. I didn't know where else to go. Now I'm at my mom's place, trying to process what happened. I can't believe Karen would do this to me. And Bill? He was supposed to be my best friend. We've known each other since high school. He was even the best man at our wedding. How could he betray me like this? Karen has been calling and texting nonstop since I left. She's begging me to come back so we can talk. She says it was a mistake and that she loves me. But how can I believe her after what I saw? I'm so confused and hurt. I don't know what to do next. Part of me wants to go back and hear her out, to understand why she did this. But another part of me is so angry that I don't even want to look at her right now. I keep thinking about all the times I was away on duty, wondering if this has been going on the whole time. Was our entire marriage a lie? Were all those happy memories just a facade? I'm also worried about what this means for my career. If we get divorced, how will it affect my life in the Army? Will I be able to focus on my duties with all this personal unrest? My mom thinks I should take some time to cool off before making any decisions. She says I shouldn't do anything rash while I'm still emotional. But it's hard to think clearly when my whole world has been turned upside down. I've been trying to distract myself, but everywhere I look, there's something that reminds me of Karen. The wallpaper on my phone is still a picture of us from our last anniversary. I can't bring myself to change it yet. I keep replaying the moment I walked into that bedroom in my head. The look on Karen's face when she saw me, was it guilt? Shame? Or just surprise at being caught? And Bill, how could he just sit there and say nothing? I'm also angry at myself. Why didn't I see any signs? Were there red flags that I missed because I was away so often? Should I have been a better husband somehow? My Army buddies always talk about how lucky I am to have such a faithful and supportive wife waiting for me back home. What am I supposed to tell them now? How do I face my colleagues knowing that the picture-perfect marriage they thought I had was all a lie? I'm torn between wanting to forgive Karen and wanting to end our marriage right away. I took my vows seriously, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health. But does infidelity count as for worse? Am I obligated to try and work through this? Bill hasn't tried to contact me at all. I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse. I keep thinking about all the future plans Karen and I had made. We talked about having kids once I finished my current tour of duty. We even picked out names. Now all those dreams feel ruined. I'm also worried about practical things. Most of our stuff is in that house. If I decide not to go back, how do I get my things? The thought of seeing Karen again, of being in that house where I caught them, makes me feel sick. My leave is only for a week. I'm supposed to report back to duty in a few days. How am I supposed to focus on my job with all this going on? Should I ask for? But emotionally, I'm not ready to make any decisions yet. I feel like I'm grieving, not just for my marriage, but for the future I thought we had, for the trust I've lost, for the friendship with Bill that's now destroyed. Karen's latest text says she'll do anything to make this right, that she'll go to counseling, that she'll cut all ties with Bill. But can I ever trust her again? Even if I decide to try and work things out, will I always be wondering if she's being truthful? I'm also struggling with feelings of lack. Was I not a good enough husband? Did Karen cheat because I was away too often? Should I have done something differently? The more I think about it, the more questions I have. I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster. One minute I'm determined to be strong and move on, the next I'm looking at old photos of Karen and me, remembering happier times and feeling heartbroken all over again. I know I need to make a decision soon. I can't avoid Karen forever, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do about my living situation and my belongings. But right now, every option feels impossible. Should I have stayed and talked it out? What would you do in my situation? Update. It's been a few months since my last post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to give you all an update on my situation. After spending some time at my mom's place and talking things through with her and a counselor, I finally decided to divorce Karen. It wasn't an easy decision, but I felt it was the right one for me. I couldn't see myself ever trusting her again after what she did. I hired a lawyer and had divorce papers drawn up. I decided to have them sent to Karen rather than delivering them myself. I didn't think I could face her without losing my calmness. A few days after the papers were sent, Karen called me. I was expecting her to beg me to reconsider or to apologize again. But her tone was completely different this time. She was angry, accusatory even. "So, you're divorcing me?" she spat. "That's rich coming from you, you hypocrite." I was confused. "What are you talking about, Karen?" "Don't play dumb with me," she said. "Bill told me everything about your affairs with your female colleagues in the Army. How dare you act all high and mighty when you've been cheating on me this whole time?" I was stunned. Not only was this accusation completely false, but I couldn't believe Bill would stoop so low as to make up lies about me. "Karen, that's absolutely not true," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I have never cheated on you. Bill is lying." "Why would Bill lie?" she shot back. "He's been nothing but supportive of me since you left. Unlike you, who just ran away without even talking to me." I felt a surge of anger. "Are you serious right now? I caught you in bed with my best friend, and you're accusing me of running away? And now you're believing the words of the guy you cheated with over your husband?" "Well, at least Bill was here for me," she said. "He told me how you've been flirting with your female colleagues, how you've been unfaithful during your deployments. He said he couldn't stand by and watch you deceive me anymore." I was disgusted. Not just with Bill for making up these lies, but with Karen for believing them so easily. "Karen," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "if you had any doubts about my fidelity, you should have talked to me about it. Instead, you chose to believe Bill and sleep with him. Do you realize how messed up that is?" "I was hurt and confused," she said, but her voice lacked any real remorse. "Bill was there for me. He understood what I was going through." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like I was talking to a completely different person, not the woman I had married and loved for years. "Even if what Bill said was true, which it absolutely isn't," I said, "that doesn't justify what you did. You could have confronted me, you could have asked for a divorce. Instead, you chose to cheat." Well, maybe if you had been a better husband, I wouldn't have needed to turn to Bill, she snapped. That was the last straw for me. I realized at that moment that I had made the right decision in filing for divorce. I didn't want to be with someone who could so easily believe the worst about me and use it to justify their own bad behavior. Karen, I said, my resolve strengthening, I want you to listen carefully. I have never cheated on you. Not once. Not ever. The fact that you would believe these lies about me, especially coming from the man you cheated with, tells me everything I need to know about our relationship. I'm going through with this divorce, and I'm glad I'm doing it. I don't want to be married to someone who doesn't have faith in me and who jumps into bed with a man spreading lies about her husband. There was a pause on the other end of the line. When Karen spoke again, her tone had changed. It was almost taunting. You know what? Fine. Go ahead with the divorce. Bill is twice the man you'll ever be. He'll keep me happy in ways you never could. I felt a mix of hurt and anger at her words, but mostly, I felt relieved. This conversation had confirmed that I was making the right choice. Good luck with that, Karen, I said. I hope you and Bill are very happy together. And with that, I hung up. The divorce proceedings went ahead. It was a difficult and stressful time, but I was sure of my decision. Karen didn't contest anything, probably thinking she'd be riding off into the sunset with Bill. A few months after our divorce was finalized, I heard through mutual friends about what happened with Karen and Bill. Apparently, Bill had started to gaslight Karen, making her doubt herself and her decisions. He'd make plans and then not show up, or deny saying things that he had definitely said. It was a classic manipulation tactic. Then, one day, Bill just disappeared. He stopped answering Karen's calls and texts. He moved out of her apartment without telling her where he was going. He essentially ghosted her. Karen was devastated. She tried to reach out to me, probably hoping for sympathy or support, but I kept my distance. I didn't feel any joy in her pain, but I did feel a sense of justification in my decision to leave. Looking back on everything that happened, I can see now that Bill had probably been manipulating both of us for a long time. He saw an opportunity when I was deployed and took advantage of Karen's loneliness and insecurities. Then, when he was caught, he made up lies about me to make himself look better and drive a wedge between Karen and me. I'm not excusing Karen's actions. She still made the choice to cheat, and she chose to believe Bill's lies without even talking to me first. But I can see how she fell victim to his manipulation. As for me, I'm doing better now. The divorce was hard, and there are still days when I feel angry or sad about how things turned out. But I'm focusing on my career in the Army and spending time with friends and family who have been supportive throughout this whole ordeal. I've also started seeing a therapist to work through my trust issues. I know not all women are like Karen, but this experience has definitely made it harder for me to open up and trust others. It's something I'm working on. I've had a few people suggest that I should feel vindicated or happy about what happened to Karen with Bill. But honestly, I don't. I'm not glad she got hurt. I just feel sad about the whole situation. Sad for the marriage we lost, sad for the future we'll never have, and sad that two people I once cared about turned out to be so different from who I thought they were. Some days, I still catch myself thinking about the good times Karen and I had together. Our first date, our wedding day, the plans we made for the future. It's hard to reconcile those happy memories with how things ended up. But I'm trying to focus on the lessons I've learned from this experience instead of dwelling on the pain. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is the importance of communication in a relationship. If Karen had doubts or concerns about my fidelity, she should have talked to me about them. And maybe I could have done more to reassure her when I was away on deployment. It's something I'll keep in mind for future relationships. I've also learned a lot about self-respect and standing up for myself. Walking away from my marriage was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I know it was the right choice for me. I deserve to be with someone who trusts me and who wouldn't betray me the way Karen did. To those who commented on my original post and offered advice and support, thank you. Your words helped me through some really tough times. And to anyone else who might be going through something similar, know that it does get better. It's not easy, and it takes time, but you can get through it. As for me, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm focusing on my career, my personal growth, and surrounding myself with positive people. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hopeful. And for the first time in a long time, I'm at peace with my decisions. Story 5. My ex-mother-in-law barged into my engagement party and announced that my ex-husband was half-brother to my current boyfriend. So, I did this. I, 26F, was married to my ex-husband Andy, 27M, for a year and a half before we separated. Our marriage was a roller coaster from the start, filled with more downs than ups. We met in college during our sophomore year. I was the bookish type, always with my nose in a book, while Andy was the life of the party. They say opposites attract, and in our case, it seemed true at first. We dated for 2 years before Andy proposed. It was a whirlwind romance, and looking back, I realized we were both too young and naive to understand the complexities of marriage. We thought love would conquer all, but life had other plans. The problem started almost immediately after we moved in together post-wedding. Our different lifestyles, which we once found charming about each other, became a source of constant tension. I'm an early bird, up at 6 a.m. even on weekends, ready to begin the day. Andy, on the other hand, would often stumble home at 3 a.m. from a night out with friends and sleep until noon. I'd try to wake him up, arguing that we were wasting the day. He'd get irritated, saying I was too bothered and needed to learn to relax. This pattern repeated itself almost every weekend, with neither of us willing to compromise. Our financial habits were another major point of dispute. I'm a planner and a saver. I had dreams of us buying a house, starting a family, and building a stable future. Andy lived for the moment. He'd spend on the latest gadgets, designer clothes, and expensive nights out, arguing that we were young and should enjoy life. I still remember the day I found out about his secret credit card. I was cleaning our apartment and came across a statement hidden in his desk drawer. My heart sank as I saw the balance, $15,000. When I confronted Andy, he brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal and he'd pay it off eventually. But to me, it was a huge breach of trust. Our communication styles clashed terribly too. When we fought, which was often, I wanted to hash things out immediately. I believed in talking through our problems, finding solutions, and moving forward. Andy, however, would shut down completely. He'd give me the silent treatment for days, refusing to engage in any form of conversation. This only made me more anxious and frustrated, leading to even bigger blow-ups when he finally decided to talk. We tried couples counseling, but it felt like too little, too late. In the sessions, it became clear that we had fundamentally different values and life goals. The counselor suggested we try to find common ground, but it felt like we were speaking different languages. The final straw came about a year into our marriage. I had been pushing for us to start saving for a house, but Andy kept deflecting. One day, I decided to go through our finances in detail. What I found left me cold. Not only had Andy maxed out multiple credit cards, but he had also taken out a personal loan without telling me. We were in debt to the tune of nearly $50,000. When I talked about this with Andy, instead of showing remorse, he got defensive. He accused me of snooping and said I was too controlling. That was the moment I realized our marriage was beyond saving. We had lost all trust and respect for each other. The decision to separate wasn't easy, but I knew it was necessary. Andy half-heartedly suggested we try to work things out, but I could see his heart wasn't in it. Deep down, I think we both knew we had made a mistake rushing into marriage. My mother-in-law, Sandra, took the news of our separation hard. She was a traditional, conservative woman who believed marriage was a sacred, lifelong commitment. In her eyes, divorce was never an option, no matter how unhappy the couple might be. Sandra started calling me daily, lecturing me about the importance of working through marital problems. She'd say things like, "Marriage isn't supposed to be easy, dear. It takes work and sacrifice." When I tried to explain our issues, she dismissed them as young people problems that we could overcome if we just tried harder. As the divorce proceedings began, Sandra's attitude towards me grew increasingly aggressive. She accused me of giving up too easily and breaking her son's heart. The last time I saw her, at the courthouse after our divorce was finalized, she looked me in the eye and said, "You'll regret this. You'll never find someone who loves you like my Andy did." Her words stung, but I knew in my heart that ending the marriage was the right decision. Still, to escape the negativity and start fresh, I decided to move to a different city. I cut all contact with Andy and his family, blocked their numbers, and unfriended them on social media. It was time for a new chapter in my life. The first few months in the new city were tough. I threw myself into work, taking on extra projects to keep busy and push thoughts of my failed marriage out of my mind. Slowly but surely, I started to rebuild my life. I made new friends, took up new hobbies, and began to rediscover who I was as an individual, not as someone's wife. About a year after the move, my colleague invited me to a house party. That's where I met Gerard, 27M. He was charming, intelligent, and had a great sense of humor. We spent the entire evening talking, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a spark of excitement. Gerard and I started dating, and it was like a breath of fresh air after my chaotic marriage. We shared similar values and life goals. He was financially responsible, a great communicator, and respected my need for independence. Most importantly, we brought out the best in each other. After a year of dating, Gerard proposed. It wasn't a grand, showy gesture like Andy's proposal had been. Instead, it was intimate and meaningful. He had prepared a picnic in the park where we had our first date, and as the sun was setting, he got down on one knee and asked me to spend the rest of my life with him. Without hesitation, I said yes. We decided to have an engagement party to celebrate with our friends and family. I was excited but also nervous about our families meeting for the first time. Gerard's parents were coming from out of town, and my parents were driving up for the weekend. The party was in full swing, and everything was going perfectly. Our families seemed to be getting along well, and I was finally starting to relax and enjoy myself. That's when everything went sideways. I was chatting with some friends when I heard a commotion at the entrance. I turned to look, and my blood ran cold. There, pushing past the confused guests, was my ex-mother-in-law, Sandra. She looked furious, her face red and her eyes blazing. Before I could react, she marched up to where Gerard and I were standing. She pointed at Gerard and shouted, "You can't marry her. Andy is your half-brother. Your father had an affair with me 27 years ago." The room fell silent. I felt like I was in a bad dream. I looked at Gerard, hoping to see confusion or disbelief on his face. Instead, I saw shock and recognition. His parents, who had been standing nearby, had gone pale. Gerard's father, Tom, was the first to break the silence. "Sandra," he said, his voice shaking, "what are you doing here? How did you find out about this party?" Sandra laughed bitterly. "Does it matter? What matters is that you've been lying all these years. Did you think I wouldn't figure it out? That I wouldn't recognize your son's name when I heard about the engagement?" I stood there, frozen, as chaos erupted around me. Gerard's mother was yelling at Tom, demanding to know if it was true. Sandra was crying, alternating between accusing Tom and begging Gerard to acknowledge her. Our guests were whispering among themselves, and some were quietly slipping out. Gerard just stared at the ground, not saying a word. I wanted to reach out to him, to offer some comfort, but I was paralyzed by my own shock and confusion. I don't know how long we all stood there, but eventually, my parents managed to usher everyone out, leaving just me, Gerard, his parents, and Sandra. Tom finally admitted that he had indeed had an affair with Sandra years ago, but he had no idea it had resulted in a child. He kept apologizing to his wife and Gerard, looking completely devastated. I couldn't take it anymore. I mumbled something about needing air and rushed out of the venue. I ended up walking for hours, trying to process what had happened. When I finally returned home, I found Gerard sitting on our doorstep. He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes and said, "We need to talk. I don't know what's going to happen now. Everything's a mess. I'll update when I can think straight." Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since the engagement party disaster, and I'm still reeling from the aftermath. Gerard and I decided to take some time apart to process everything. He's been staying with a friend, while I've been shaking around in our suddenly too big apartment, trying to make sense of this bizarre turn of events. I've learned more details about the situation, and each new piece of information feels like another blow. Apparently, Sandra had been obsessively tracking my life ever since the divorce. When she heard through mutual acquaintances that I was engaged again, she started digging. She managed to find out Gerard's full name and recognized his uncommon last name. Sandra then spent weeks gathering evidence of her affair with Tom, including old love letters and photos. She even went as far as to hire a private investigator to dig up more dirt on Tom. Armed with this information, she confronted Tom a few days before our engagement party. He initially denied everything, but when Sandra threatened to expose him publicly and demand a DNA test, he broke down and confessed. Gerard is understandably struggling with this revelation. He's angry at his father for the affair and for keeping it a secret all these years. He's also dealing with the idea that Andy, someone he's never met, is his half-brother. I can't even imagine how confusing and painful this must be for him. As for me, I'm caught in a whirlwind of emotions. I care deeply for Gerard, but I can't help but wonder if our relationship can survive this. The thought that I was married to his half-brother makes everything so complicated. There's a part of me that feels guilty, even though logically I know I've done nothing wrong. I've been avoiding calls from friends and family, not ready to face their questions or pity. My mom has been texting daily, asking if I'm okay and if I need her to come stay with me. I appreciate her concern, but right now, I just need space to think. Yesterday, I received a surprising call from Andy. Apparently, Sandra had told him everything too. He sounded as shocked and confused as I felt. He apologized for his mother's behavior and said he had no idea about any of this. We talked for a while, awkwardly dancing around the elephant in the room, the fact that my ex-husband and my fiancé are half-brothers. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, Andy dropped another bombshell. He told me that he and his current girlfriend are expecting a baby. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. Not because I have any lingering feelings for Andy, but because it added another layer of complexity to an already messy situation. If Gerard and I stay together, my ex-husband's child would be my fiancé's niece or nephew. The mere thought makes my head spin. I haven't told Gerard about Andy's news yet. I'm not sure how or when to bring it up. Everything feels so fragile right now, and I'm afraid this might be the final straw. Gerard and I have agreed to meet tomorrow to talk things through. I have no idea what to expect. Part of me hopes we can find a way forward together, but another part wonders if it would be easier to walk away now before things get even more complicated. As I sit here, staring at the engagement ring on my finger, I can't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. If someone had told me a month ago that this would be my life, I would have thought they were pitching a plot for a soap opera. I'll update again after Gerard and I talk. Right now, I'm trying to prepare myself for any outcome. Whatever happens, I know my life will never be the same. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and to say a lot has happened would be an understatement. Gerard and I met as planned, and our conversation was intense, emotional, and ultimately, surprising. We started by addressing the fact that he and Andy are half-brothers. Gerard admitted that he had always felt like something was missing in his life, and in a strange way, discovering he had a half-brother filled a void he didn't know existed. He expressed a desire to get to know Andy, which I found both admirable and terrifying. I took this opportunity to share Andy's news about the baby. Gerard was quiet for a long time after I told him. When he finally spoke, he said something I never expected: "I want to be a part of that child's life. They're my family too." His words hit me like a freight train. I realized that if Gerard and I stayed together, my life would forever be entangled with Andy's in ways I had never imagined. The idea was overwhelming, but as I looked at Gerard, I saw determination and hope in his eyes. We talked for hours, discussing our fears, our hopes, and what this all meant for our future. In the end, we decided to put our engagement on hold but continue our relationship. We both agreed we needed time to adjust to this new reality before making any lifelong commitments. Just as we thought things were settling down, life threw us another curveball. A week after our talk, Gerard received a call from his mother. She had left his father and was filing for divorce. The news hit Gerard hard. I tried to comfort him, reminding him that he wasn't responsible for his parents' choices. But I could see the weight of it all crushing him. He decided to take a leave of absence from work and go stay with his mom for a while. With Gerard gone, I threw myself into work, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. One evening, As I was leaving the office, I quite literally ran into Andy. We were both shocked to see each other. After a moment of awkward silence, he suggested we grab a coffee and talk. Sitting across from Andy in a quiet cafe, I was struck by how much he had changed. He seemed more mature, more grounded. We talked about everything that had happened, and he shared his own struggles with the situation. He admitted that he was terrified of becoming a father, especially given the complicated family dynamics. As we were about to leave, Andy hesitated, then said, "There's something else you should know. My girlfriend and I. We're having twins." I felt like the ground had dropped out from under me. Twins. Not only was Gerard going to be an uncle, but he was going to be an uncle to twins. The complexity of our situation seemed to grow with each passing day. When I got home that night, I found a message from Gerard. He had decided to extend his stay with his mom indefinitely. He said he needed more time to figure things out and suggested I do the same. Now, as I sit here writing this update, I find myself at a crossroads. My life has become connected with a family I never asked to be a part of. I care deeply for Gerard, but I'm starting to wonder if love is enough to overcome the obstacles we're facing. I don't know what the future holds. Part of me wants to fight for my relationship with Gerard, to prove that love can conquer all. But another part wonders if it would be easier to walk away now, to start fresh somewhere new where I'm not caught in this complex web of relationships. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I've decided to take a vacation, to get away from it all and clear my head. Maybe some distance will provide the clarity I need. I'll update again when I've made a decision about my future. Until then, wish me luck as I navigate this soap opera that has become my life. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm writing this from a small apartment in a new city. After much soul-searching and countless sleepless nights, I made the difficult decision to end my relationship with Gerard and start fresh. The vacation I took helped me gain perspective. Being away from the drama and having time to myself allowed me to really think about what I wanted for my future. I realized that while I cared deeply for Gerard, the complicated family dynamics were more than I could handle. When I returned, Gerard and I had a long, emotional conversation. He had come to a similar conclusion during his time away. We both agreed that the situation was too complex and that trying to force a relationship would likely lead to resentment down the line. Ending things with Gerard was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I know it was the right decision for both of us. We parted on good terms, promising to cherish the good memories we shared. After the breakup, I felt an overwhelming need for a complete change. I quit my job, sold most of my belongings, and moved to a new city where I knew no one. It was scary, but also liberating. I've been here for 3 months now, and I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I found a job at a small marketing firm, joined a local yoga studio, and even adopted a cat. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm in control of my own life and future. I've had limited contact with Gerard since the move. We occasionally exchange brief, friendly messages, but we're both careful to maintain our distance. He updates me sometimes on his family situation. He's been building a relationship with Andy and is excited about being an uncle to the twins, who were born 2 months ago. I'm happy for him, but I'm also relieved that I'm not caught in the middle of it all anymore. As for Andy and his new family, I've chosen to keep that chapter of my life closed. It's better this way, for everyone involved. My ex-mother-in-law Sandra tried to reach out to me a few times, but I've blocked her number. I have no interest in engaging with her or being pulled back into the drama she caused. Looking back on everything that happened, it feels like a whirlwind. There are moments when I still can't believe how quickly my life changed and how complicated things became. But I've learned valuable lessons from this experience. I've learned the importance of taking time to really know someone before committing to a lifelong partnership. I've learned that sometimes, walking away is the bravest and kindest thing you can do for yourself and others. Most importantly, I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever thought possible. I've survived a divorce, a failed engagement, and a complete upheaval of my life. And here I am, still standing, still moving forward. I don't know what the future holds for me. Right now, I'm focusing on myself, my career, and building a life that makes me happy. I'm not ruling out the possibility of love and marriage in the future, but I'm in no rush. For now, I'm enjoying the peace and simplicity of my new life. This will be my final update on this saga. Thank you to everyone who has followed my story and offered support along the way. Here's to new beginnings and the adventures that lie ahead. Story 6. My husband cheated on me with his cousin when I was 7 months pregnant and bedridden in a hospital. After childbirth, he snatched my baby girl, but I filed a lawsuit and took her back. I never thought I'd be in this situation. Here I am, 28 years old, 4 months pregnant with my first child, and suspecting my husband Philip of cheating on me with his cousin. Let me start from the beginning. Philip and I met 5 years ago at a mutual friend's barbecue. I was immediately drawn to his warm smile and easygoing nature. We bonded over our shared love of hiking and board games. Our first date was a disaster. The restaurant lost our reservation, and it started pouring rain as we walked back to the car. But we ended up laughing about it and talking for hours in a 24-hour diner instead. Things progressed quickly from there. Within 6 months, we were practically living together. Philip proposed on our 1-year anniversary during a weekend getaway to the mountains. We got married in a small ceremony surrounded by close family and friends a few months later. The first 4 years of our marriage were wonderful. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall, we were happy and in love. We supported each other through job changes and family losses. We traveled, tried new hobbies together, and built a life we both loved. When I found out I was pregnant 4 months ago, we were overjoyed. Philip cried happy tears when I told him the news. We started dreaming about nursery themes and baby names. Everything changed when Philip's cousin Stacy moved in with us last month. She's 26 and doing a year-long internship at an office near our house. At first, I was happy to help her out by giving her a place to stay. But I quickly started to notice changes in Philip's behavior. He suddenly became very attentive to his appearance, spending more time getting ready in the mornings. He started going to the gym more often, saying he wanted to get in shape before the baby came. I noticed him laughing a lot at Stacy's jokes and finding excuses to be in the same room as her. Sometimes I'd walk in, and they'd abruptly stop talking, as if I'd interrupted something. Stacy has always been a flirty, outgoing person. She loves being the center of attention, especially for men. I tried to tell myself I was just being paranoid due to pregnancy hormones. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on. My pregnancy has been difficult from the start. I've had severe morning sickness and have been put on bed rest several times due to complications. Philip hired a maid to help with cooking and cleaning since I've been so unwell. The maid, Maria, was a godsend. She's become a good friend and confidant during this time. As I've been stuck in bed more and more, Philip and Stacy have been spending a lot of time together. They go grocery shopping, watch movies in the living room, and even started taking evening walks together. Philip says it's just to keep Stacy company since I can't do those things right now. But I can't help feeling left out and suspicious. I've overheard snippets of conversations between them that make me uncomfortable. Stacy saying things like "Op is so lucky to have you and I wish I could find a guy like you." Philip complimenting Stacy's outfit or laughing at inside jokes I'm not part of. The lack of intimacy between Philip and me hasn't helped matters. My doctor advised against sex for most of the pregnancy due to complications. I can tell Philip has been frustrated by this. I've caught him looking at Stacy when he thinks I'm not watching, his eyes lingering a bit too long. Maria noticed the changing dynamics as well. She quietly told me one day that she thought something might be going on between Philip and Stacy. She said she'd seen them whispering and giggling together in the kitchen late at night. Once, she walked in on what looked like an intimate moment. They jumped apart quickly when they realized she was there. I finally worked up the courage to confront Philip about my suspicions. I told him I felt like something had changed between us and asked if there was anything going on with Stacy. He immediately got defensive, saying I was being paranoid and hormonal. He accused me of not trusting him and said I was imagining things. I was hurt by his reaction. Even if nothing physical had happened, I felt like he was dismissing my valid concerns. I tried to explain that I just wanted open communication between us. But he shut down and refused to discuss it further. Since then, things have been tense between us. I've stopped bringing up my concerns, but the suspicion and hurt are always there. Philip acts like everything is normal, but I can feel the distance growing between us. I'm scared and confused. I'm 4 months pregnant with our child, but I feel like I'm losing my husband. I don't know if I'm overreacting or if my instincts are right. I'm worried about what will happen when the baby comes. Will things get better or worse? I never imagined I'd be in this position, suspecting my husband of cheating while I'm carrying our child. I feel alone and uncertain about the future. I'm trying to stay strong for the baby, but inside I'm falling apart. I don't know what to do next. Update 1. It's been 3 months since my last post, and I wish I had better news to share. I'm now 7 months pregnant and currently in the hospital due to complications with my pregnancy. The situation with Philip and Stacy has only gotten worse. For the past few weeks, I've been on strict bed rest at the hospital. My blood pressure has been dangerously high, and there's a risk of preeclampsia. The doctors are monitoring me and the baby closely. Philip has been staying with me most of the time, sleeping in the uncomfortable hospital chair. He goes home every few days to shower, change clothes, and bring back fresh supplies. Stacy has visited a few times, always bringing cheerful flowers and magazines. On the surface, she's the picture of a caring cousin-in-law. But I can't shake the feeling that her concern is an act. I've caught her giving Philip meaningful looks when she thinks I'm not watching. The nights when Philip stays at home have been the hardest. I lie awake in the hospital bed, imagining what might be happening back at our house. My mind conjures up scenarios I don't want to think about. Before I was admitted to the hospital, I had a long talk with Maria, our maid. I confided in her about my suspicions and asked if she could keep an eye on things while I was away. Maria has been a true friend through all of this, and she agreed without hesitation. What Maria has reported back to me has broken my heart. She's been making excuses to stop by the house at different times of day, and what she's found has confirmed my worst fears. Several times, Maria arrived to find Philip's clothes strewn across Stacy's bedroom floor. Once, she found Stacy's underwear tangled in the sheets of our marital bed. She's heard muffled laughter and suspicious noises coming from behind closed doors. It seems that while I've been lying in a hospital bed, fighting to keep our baby safe, Philip and Stacy have been living out some kind of fantasy honeymoon. The betrayal cuts deep. I feel like a fool for ever trusting either of them. Maria has been discreetly gathering evidence, photos of rumpled bedsheets, clothing in the wrong rooms, empty wine bottles. She's even managed to get a few incriminating pictures of Philip and Stacy in compromising positions. Part of me doesn't want to see them, but I know I might need proof later. As my due date approaches, I've noticed a change in Philip's behavior. He seems distracted and irritable when he's at the hospital with me. He's on his phone constantly, smiling at text messages I can't see. When I ask who he's talking to, he always says it's work stuff or brushes off my questions. Stacy has been conspicuously absent lately. The last time she visited, I overheard her talking to Philip in the hallway. I couldn't make out everything, but I heard phrases like "after the baby comes" and "fresh start." My stomach churned as I realized they might be making plans for a future that doesn't include me. I've been trying to stay calm for the baby's sake, but the stress is taking its toll. The doctors have noticed my elevated heart rate and blood pressure. They keep telling me to relax, not realizing that the source of my stress isn't just the pregnancy complications. Yesterday, things came to a head. I went into labor 3 weeks early. The delivery was long and difficult. After 20 hours of labor, our daughter was finally born. She's tiny but healthy, with a strong set of lungs. In that first moment of holding her, all the pain and betrayal faded away. I was filled with an overwhelming love for this little person we'd created. I thought maybe, just maybe, her arrival would bring Philip back to me. But my hopes were quickly dashed. As soon as the nurses took our daughter to be cleaned up, Philip started pressuring me to sign release forms. He was adamant about taking the baby home as soon as possible. When I expressed concern about leaving the hospital so quickly, he became agitated. I refused to let the nurses give our daughter to Philip or Stacy. Something in my gut told me I couldn't trust them with her. This led to a heated argument right there in the delivery room. Philip accused me of being irrational and hormonal. He said I was trying to keep him from his child. In the end, Philip stormed out of the room. He returned a day later with a stack of papers, temporary custody forms he'd somehow obtained. Before I could protest, he scooped up our newborn daughter and left the hospital, Stacy trailing behind him with a smug smile. I'm writing this from my hospital bed, still recovering from giving birth and reeling from what's happened. My daughter is less than 24 hours old, and she's already been taken from me. I feel hollow inside, alternating between numbness and crushing despair. The nurses have been kind, offering sympathetic looks and gentle encouragement. But they can't fix what's broken. I'm facing the reality that my marriage is over, shattered by betrayal at what should have been our happiest moment. I don't know what comes next. I'm scared to go home, unsure of what I'll find there. Will Philip even let me see our daughter? How did things go so wrong so quickly? For now, I'm focusing on regaining my strength. I know I have a fight ahead of me, for my daughter, for my dignity, for my future. I'm no longer the naive, trusting person I was a few months ago. Whatever happens next, I know I'll have to be strong for my little girl. She's the only thing that matters now. Final update. It's been 3 months since my last update, and so much has changed. I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, with my beautiful daughter sleeping peacefully beside me. The journey to get here hasn't been easy, but I finally feel like I'm on the right path. After Philip took our daughter from the hospital, I was devastated. The nurses were incredibly supportive, both physically and emotionally. They helped me recover from the birth and listened as I poured out the whole sordid story. One kind nurse even helped me contact my brother, Andrew, and explain the situation to him. Andrew is a lawyer, and he sprung into action immediately. He flew to my city the next day and came straight to the hospital. Seeing his familiar face was like a lifeline in a storm. For the first time in months, I felt like I had someone firmly on my side. Andrew helped me get discharged from the hospital and took me to his friend's house to recuperate. I was anxious about being away from my newborn daughter, but Andrew assured me we would get her back. He started gathering evidence and preparing legal documents right away. Maria, my amazing maid and friend, came through for me once again. She brought over all the evidence she had collected, photos, videos, even a journal where she documented Philip and Stacy's behavior. It was painful to look at, but I knew it would be crucial for what was to come. Andrew filed for emergency custody of my daughter, citing Philip's erratic behavior and the evidence of his affair. We also started divorce proceedings, using Maria's documentation to prove Philip's infidelity. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyer meetings, court appearances, and tearful nights. But finally, after what felt like an eternity, the judge granted me full custody of my daughter. I'll never forget the moment I held her in my arms again, promising her that I'd never let anyone take her from me again. With the custody issue settled, we moved forward with the divorce. Andrew had prepared an airtight case. When we presented Philip with the divorce papers and all the evidence we had gathered, the look on his face was a mixture of shock and defeat. He knew he'd been caught, and there was no way out. Stacy was furious when she realized her plans had backfired. She had clearly thought she and Philip would ride off into the sunset together, raising my daughter as their own. Instead, she was left with nothing but a ruined reputation and a man who had proven himself to be a cheater. The divorce was finalized quickly, given the overwhelming evidence against Philip. I was awarded our house and a significant portion of our assets, as well as full custody of our daughter. Philip was granted supervised visitation rights, but so far, he hasn't exercised them. After everything was settled legally, Andrew helped me pack up my things and my daughter's belongings. We said goodbye to Maria, who had been such a crucial part of this whole ordeal. I promised to keep in touch and thanked her for everything she'd done. Now, I'm back in my hometown, living with my parents while I figure out my next steps. It's not where I thought I'd be at 28, a newly single mother starting over. But I'm surrounded by love and support, and that makes all the difference. My daughter is thriving. She's a happy, healthy 3-month-old who lights up my world. Every smile, every coo, reminds me that something beautiful came out of all that pain. She'll never remember the turmoil of her first few days, and I'm grateful for that. As for me, I'm slowly healing. There are still days when the betrayal hits me hard, when I wonder how I could have been so blind. But those days are becoming fewer and farther between. I'm in therapy, working through my trust issues and learning to love myself again. I've started thinking about the future, maybe going back to school, or starting a new career. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I have options. My life didn't turn out the way I planned, but maybe that's okay. I'm stronger now, wiser, and I have my daughter to think about. Philip has tried to contact me a few times, always with weak excuses and half-hearted apologies. I've ignored them all. Stacy, I hear, has moved back to her hometown, her internship and dreams of playing house with Philip in ruins. Sometimes I look at old photos of Philip and me, remembering the happy times we had. It's bittersweet, knowing how it all ended. But I don't regret the journey, because it led me to my daughter. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and for her, I'll keep moving forward. As I write this, watching my baby girl sleep, I feel a sense of peace I haven't known in a long time. The road ahead won't always be easy, but I'm ready for whatever comes. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm rebuilding, I'm growing, and I'm looking forward to the future. Whatever it holds, I know I can face it. After all, I'm not just me anymore, I'm a mother, and that gives me a strength I never knew I had. Story 7. My parents wanted to give my share of inheritance to their favored daughter, but little did they know that my grandparents had other plans. I, 28M, come from a family with a long and complicated history of favoritism. My parents, especially my dad, have always favored my younger sister Amy, 25F, over me. This favoritism started when we were kids and only got worse as we grew up. From my earliest memories, Amy was always the golden child. When I was 5 and she was 2, our parents threw her an extravagant birthday party with a bouncy castle, petting zoo, and professional face painters. For my birthday that same year, I got a small family dinner and a store-bought cake. This set the tone for years to come. As we grew older, the disparities became more apparent. Amy always got the newest toys, the best clothes, and the most attention. I remember when I was 10, I saved up my allowance for months to buy a new bike. When Amy saw it, she threw a tantrum because she wanted one too. Instead of teaching her about saving or waiting, my parents immediately went out and bought her an even better bike than mine. School was another arena where the favoritism shone through. My parents went to all of Amy's school events but often missed mine. In 4th grade, I had the lead role in the school play. I was so excited and practiced for weeks. On the night of the performance, my parents showed up an hour late, missing my big scene. They said Amy had a tummy ache and they were comforting her. I later found out she was fine, they had just lost track of time while playing with her. When it came to academics, nothing I did ever seemed good enough. In middle school, I consistently got straight A's, joined the math club, and even won a regional science fair. My parents barely acknowledged these achievements. But when Amy got a B+ on a single test in her weakest subject, they threw her a celebratory dinner and bought her a new phone as motivation to keep improving. High school was particularly tough. I threw myself into every activity I could, hoping to win their approval. I was captain of the debate team, editor of the school newspaper, and maintained a 4.0 GPA. Meanwhile, Amy coasted through school, barely maintaining a C average and spending most of her time partying with friends. During my junior year, I was selected as one of 2 students from our school to attend a prestigious summer program at Harvard. It was a huge honor, and I was thrilled. When I shared the news at dinner, my dad grunted and changed the subject to Amy's upcoming dance recital. My mom at least said that's nice, but quickly moved on. The night of Amy's recital, which fell on the same day I was leaving for Harvard, my parents couldn't drive me to the airport because they didn't want to miss Amy's performance. I had to ask a friend's parents for a ride. The college application process was another painful experience. I spent months perfecting my essays, participating in extracurriculars, and studying for the SATs. I was accepted into several top-tier universities and received a substantial scholarship to my dream school. When I announced this at dinner, my parents' response was lukewarm at best. My dad said, "That's good, but don't let it go to your head. College isn't everything." My mom added, "Just don't forget about us when you're off becoming a big shot." In contrast, when Amy barely graduated high school and decided not to go to college, my parents were completely supportive. They praised her for knowing herself and not conforming to societal pressures. They even bought her a car as a graduation present, something they never did for me. This constant favoritism took a heavy toll on me emotionally. I struggled with depression and anxiety throughout my teens and early 20s. I started seeing a therapist in college, which helped me understand that my parents' behavior wasn't my fault. It took years of work to build my self-esteem and learn to validate myself instead of seeking approval from my parents. Despite the lack of support from my immediate family, I managed to build a good life for myself. I graduated college with honors, secured a good job in finance, and even bought my own house by 27. I'm proud of what I've achieved, even if my parents aren't. Now, here's where the current drama starts. My grandfather on my dad's side passed away recently. He was a successful businessman who built a fortune from scratch, and he left behind a significant estate. In his will, he divided his assets equally among his children, my dad and his siblings, and grandchildren, me, Amy, and our cousins. My share of the inheritance was substantial, about $500,000. It would have allowed me to pay off my student loans, invest in my future, and maybe even start my own business someday. I was grateful for this unexpected windfall and the opportunities it could provide. However, when the will was read, my parents were visibly upset. They pulled me aside afterward and told me they thought it was unfair that I got an equal share. They said Amy needed the money more because she was struggling. She works part-time at a coffee shop and lives in our parents' basement. I was shocked but tried to stay calm. I explained that this was Grandpa's decision, and it wasn't up to them to change it. They insisted that I should do the right thing and give my share to Amy. When I refused, they got angry and started guilt-tripping me, saying I was selfish and ungrateful. My dad brought up every instance he could think of where they had supported me. He mentioned paying for my braces, which were medically necessary, buying me school supplies, the bare minimum, and letting me live at home during college, even though I worked part-time to contribute to expenses. He conveniently forgot about the car they bought Amy, the countless shopping sprees, and the fact that they're still supporting her at 25. The situation escalated quickly. My dad, as the executor of the will, decided to take matters into his own hands. He announced that he was going to reinterpret Grandpa's wishes and give my entire share to Amy, on top of her own inheritance. He claimed this is what Grandpa would have wanted if he had known our individual circumstances. I was devastated. Not only was this clearly illegal, but it was also a painful reminder of how little my parents valued me. I tried to reason with them, pointing out that Grandpa had always treated all his grandchildren equally and that he was well aware of our situations. My mom then accused me of speaking ill of the dead by suggesting Grandpa would have wanted anything different from what my dad was proposing. I brought up specific memories of Grandpa encouraging my academic and career pursuits, but my parents dismissed these as misunderstandings. They claimed Grandpa had privately expressed concern about Amy's future and had wanted to ensure she was taken care of. When I asked why he hadn't just written the will that way then, they didn't have an answer. Amy, for her part, seemed uncomfortable with the situation but didn't speak up against our parents. When I tried to talk to her privately, she just shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." It was clear she wasn't going to be any help. Feeling hurt and betrayed, I reached out to my paternal grandma, Grandpa's widow, for advice. She was furious when she heard what was happening. She told me that this was absolutely not what Grandpa had intended and that my parents had no right to change the will. Grandma shared some information that shed new light on the situation. Apparently, my parents had approached Grandpa a few years ago, asking him to leave everything to Amy in his will. Grandpa had firmly refused, stating that he believed in treating all his grandchildren equally. He had even added a clause to his will stating that anyone who contested the equal distribution would forfeit their share. Armed with this information, I confronted my parents. They were shocked that Grandma had told me about their previous attempt to influence the will. My dad tried to justify it by saying they were just looking out for Amy's future, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandma took action immediately. She contacted her lawyer and the other executors of the will. She also reached out to my dad's siblings, who were equally outraged by what my dad was trying to do. Together, they put a stop to my dad's plan and ensured that the will would be executed as written. My parents were forced to back down, but they're furious with me. They accused me of turning the family against them and said I should have handled this in-house instead of involving others. My mom cried about how I had betrayed them and broken the family apart. My dad threatened to cut me out of their will entirely, to which I responded that I had never expected anything from them anyway. They're now threatening to cut me off completely if I accept their money, as they see it. My dad even went so far as to say that if I take the inheritance, I'm no longer welcome in their home. My mom, in a particularly low blow, said that my acceptance of the money shows that I never really loved them and was just waiting to cash in on their deaths. The extended family is divided on the issue. Some of my cousins are supportive, recognizing the long-standing favoritism and praising me for standing up for myself. Others think I should have just given in to keep the peace, saying that family harmony is more important than money. My dad's siblings are firmly on my side, but this has caused tension between them and my parents. Amy is caught in the middle of all this. She told me privately that she didn't ask for this and feels guilty, but she's not willing to stand up to our parents. I don't blame her entirely. She's been conditioned her whole life to rely on them and seek their approval. Still, a part of me wishes she would support me just this once. This situation has brought up a lot of old pain and resentment. I find myself thinking back to all the times I was overlooked or dismissed in favor of Amy. The birthday parties I didn't have, the school events my parents missed, the achievements that went unrecognized. It's like a lifetime of unfairness is coming to a head in this one event. I'm standing my ground and plan to accept my inheritance as Grandpa intended. But the whole situation has created a huge rift in the family. My parents are barely speaking to me, and family gatherings have become tense and uncomfortable. Last week, I skipped our monthly family dinner for the first time ever because I couldn't face the cold shoulders and accusatory glares. Despite the drama, a small part of me feels empowered. For the first time in my life, I'm standing up to my parents' unfair treatment. I'm asserting my worth and refusing to be sidelined. It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. I believe I'm in the right here, but the family drama is taking a toll on me. I've started having anxiety attacks again, something I haven't experienced since college. I'm considering going back to therapy to help deal with all this stress. Am I the asshole for accepting my inheritance and not giving in to my parents' demands? Should I have just given Amy the money to keep the peace? I'm tired of being the family scapegoat, but I'm also scared of losing my family entirely. Any advice or perspective would be appreciated. Update. It's been about 6 months since my original post, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me stay strong during a difficult time. First, let me address the legal side of things. As many of you suggested, I did consult with a lawyer of my own. He confirmed that what my dad tried to do was indeed illegal and that I had every right to my inheritance. He helped me document everything and prepared to take legal action if necessary. Thankfully, it didn't come to that. My grandma and her lawyer, along with my dad's siblings, managed to sort things out without going to court. The will was executed as written, and I received my full inheritance. My dad was removed as an executor due to his attempt to manipulate the will. This process took several weeks and was incredibly stressful. There were tense meetings, heated phone calls, and even a few threats of lawsuits from my parents. But in the end, the law was clear, and they had to back down. The family fallout, however, has been significant and is still ongoing. My parents initially doubled down on their position. They accused me of being greedy and uncaring towards my sister. They even tried to rally other family members against me, spreading rumors that I had somehow tricked or manipulated Grandpa into leaving me money. Fortunately, most of the family saw through their manipulation. There was one particularly ugly incident at a family gathering about a month after the will was settled. My parents showed up uninvited, my aunt was hosting and hadn't asked them to come, and caused a scene. My dad started yelling about how I had stolen from Amy and corrupted Grandma against them. My mom dramatically threw an old photo album at my feet, saying I had destroyed all these happy memories. It was embarrassing and painful, and it took several relatives to calm the situation and ask my parents to leave. My grandma, bless her heart, became my strongest advocate through all of this. She shared stories about how my grandfather had always been proud of my accomplishments and how he specifically wanted to ensure all his grandchildren had equal opportunities. She even revealed that Grandpa had kept a scrapbook of my achievements, newspaper clippings of academic awards, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from that school play my parents had been late to. This revelation was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. Grandma also took it upon herself to set the record straight with the extended family. She called a family meeting, excluding my parents, where she laid out the whole history of my parents' favoritism, including incidents I had long forgotten or never even knew about. It was vindicating to have someone finally acknowledge the unfairness I had experienced for years, but it also opened old wounds. As for my sister Amy, she finally found her voice in all this. After some soul-searching and several long conversations with our grandma, she approached me privately and apologized for not standing up for me earlier. She admitted that she knew our parents' favoritism was wrong but had been too afraid to challenge it. We had a long, emotional talk about our childhood and how it affected both of us. Amy confessed that being the favorite child wasn't as great as it seemed. She felt immense pressure to live up to our parents' expectations and never learned how to stand on her own 2 feet. She shared stories of times she wanted to achieve things on her own, but our parents would swoop in and do everything for her, robbing her of the chance to grow and learn from her mistakes. This conversation was a turning point for our relationship. We started to rebuild the sibling bond that had been damaged by our parents' favoritism. We've been meeting regularly for coffee, just the two of us, to talk and support each other through this family upheaval. Amy surprised everyone by announcing that she was going to use her inheritance to go to college. She said watching me stand up for myself inspired her to take control of her own life. She enrolled in a local community college to start, with plans to transfer to a 4-year university once she figures out what she wants to study. Our parents were shocked. I think they realized their babying hadn't done Amy any favors. My parents' reaction to all this has been mixed and evolving. At first, they were furious with both of us. They accused me of turning Amy against them and tried to guilt her into giving up college to support the family. When that didn't work, they switched tactics. My mom, after several long conversations with my grandma and witnessing the positive changes in Amy, started to see how their behavior had been harmful. She's taken some tentative steps towards reconciliation, even going so far as to start therapy to work on her issues. She reached out to me to apologize, admitting that she had been unfair and asking for a chance to make things right. It's a slow process, and I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also maintaining firm boundaries. My dad, unfortunately, has been less willing to admit any wrongdoing. He's still angry and feels like he's the victim in all this. He's barely speaking to me and has been cold towards Amy since she decided to go to college. He's made a few attempts to manipulate us, promising to forgive us if we just admit we were wrong, or threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't come to our senses. We're both standing firm, but it's painful to watch him push away both his children like this. The extended family dynamics have shifted significantly. I've become closer to my grandma and my dad's siblings, who have been wonderfully supportive. My aunts and uncles have shared their own stories of dealing with my dad's difficult behavior over the years, which has helped me feel less alone in this struggle. I've also formed deeper connections with some of my cousins who stood by me. We've started a monthly cousin dinner where we can all catch up without the pressure of the older generation's drama. As for me, I've been using my inheritance wisely. I paid off my student loans, which has given me an incredible sense of financial freedom. I've set up a diverse investment portfolio with the help of a financial advisor. I've also set aside some money to potentially start my own business in the future. I'm exploring the idea of opening a community center that offers affordable mental health services and financial literacy classes. But the most meaningful use of the money, for me, has been funding therapy for myself and offering to do the same for Amy. We're both working on healing from our childhood experiences and learning to set healthy boundaries with our parents. It's a long process, but I already feel like I'm making progress in understanding and overcoming the effects of the long-term favoritism and emotional neglect. This whole ordeal has led to some unexpected positive changes in my life. I've learned a lot about setting boundaries and standing up for myself. It hasn't been easy, and there are still tough days, but I know I did the right thing. I'm proud of myself for not giving in to the pressure and guilt. One of the most surprising outcomes has been a shift in my career goals. Dealing with all this family drama and going through therapy has made me realize how passionate I am about helping others who have experienced similar family dynamics. I'm now considering going back to school to become a family therapist specializing in adult children of emotionally immature parents. I've also started volunteering at a local youth center, mentoring kids from difficult family backgrounds. It's incredibly rewarding to be able to provide the kind of support and encouragement I wish I had had as a child. I'm even thinking about using some of my inheritance to set up a scholarship fund for kids from similar situations. My relationship with Amy has continued to improve. We've started a tradition of having a siblings day once a month where we do something fun together, just the two of us. Last month, we went hiking and had a picnic, and it was the most relaxed and connected we've felt since we were little kids. We're slowly rebuilding our relationship on our own terms, without our parents' influence. As for my parents, things are still complicated. My mom has been making efforts to repair our relationship. She's been attending therapy regularly and has even started to acknowledge some of the harm her favoritism caused. We've had a few one-on-one lunches where we've had some honest, albeit difficult, conversations about our past and how we can move forward. It's not perfect, but it's progress. My dad, however, remains resistant to change. He still maintains that he did nothing wrong and that Amy and I are being ungrateful. He's missed several family events because he refuses to be in the same room as me. It hurts, but I'm learning to accept that I can't control his reactions or force him to see things differently. Grandma has become a rock for both Amy and me. She's been sharing more stories about our grandfather and how proud he would be of us for standing up for ourselves. She's also been a great mediator in family conflicts, always advocating for fairness and understanding. The whole experience has taught me a lot about the true meaning of family. I've realized that sometimes the family you choose can be more supportive than the one you're born into. I've formed closer bonds with my aunts, uncles, and cousins who stood by me, and I've even developed a close-knit group of friends who have been incredibly supportive throughout this ordeal. I've also learned the importance of self-care and setting boundaries. I no longer feel guilty for prioritizing my own well-being, and I'm getting better at saying no to situations that are harmful to my mental health. I've even started exploring new hobbies and interests that I had always put off because I was so focused on trying to win my parents' approval. To those who are in similar situations, I want to say, don't let anyone make you feel guilty for receiving what's rightfully yours. It's okay to stand up for yourself, even if it causes conflict. Family dynamics can be complicated, but you deserve to be treated with respect and fairness. Remember, it's never too late to start healing and building the life you deserve. Seek therapy if you need it, surround yourself with supportive people, and don't be afraid to set boundaries. Your worth isn't determined by how your family treats you, but by who you are as a person.